This is actually a spirit quartz, and this is hematite. That's why I chose them. When you're working on walking through a portal, this is supposed to be helpful. In the now, acceptance, and now, they're both now.
Okay, let's just do a practice start,
Okay. Here's the 1st of October. We could start that way.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, it is October 1st, and I almost called you Stella More already, because I put that into my phone. VanderHoeven, and
No, Stella More.
now I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, you are. Here's to the 1st of October.
I'm Allison Michelle,
I'm Stella More.
and we are
Southern Sisters Sanctuary. Yeah.
This is our first podcast, and interestingly enough, we pull the rabbit spirit, which says, now is a lucky time. And you want to show them that one?
Sure.
With your new deck?
And Allison also pulled She Who Is Present, Taraz, Now, Awareness, Acceptance. So, of course, I glommed on to patterns right away. They both say now.
We're talking about the present moment.
Present moment.
This October.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're here. We wanted to talk about our origin story today. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, I'll start. I'm older.
She's got seniority.
Yeah, I got seniority here. I believe that this started, well, actually when I was a kid, but I'm going to start with an adult story. I had my first vision when I was 5. And I knew it was unusual even then, and I didn't tell anybody but my mama, my grandmother. My German grandmother, and she turns around and she puts her hands on her hips. She was making pancakes when I told her. She turns around like this and she goes, well, you're either greatly cursed or greatly blessed. Wow. And I always say she was right on both counts. Absolutely right on both counts.
What a start.
So what a start, yeah. So we'll skip to like...
What a premonition of bipolar 1.
Yeah, no kidding. But what we were going to talk about for this vision specifically is that about 25 years ago, I'm guessing, I had a dream one night that a nun came to me, and I'm not Catholic. A nun came to me, and she was all dressed in this like aqua blue, and she was laughing, and she said, what's taking you so long? Get with it. Come on, come on. And I woke up, and that dream did feel different. I've always called those shamanic dreams. They have a different feeling than a regular dream. When there's a message dream, we could maybe call them message dreams. When you have a message dream, it has a different feeling in your body. You know it's different. And so I took note of this, wrote it in my journal, and the next week I got invited. I was living in Seattle, and I got invited to Capitol Hill to St. James Catholic Church, and I went up there with a friend of mine, and these 2 women were standing in this pool of light in this darkened Catholic church, and one was singing music and the other one was playing violin. And oh my God, it was so beautiful. And I looked down, and it was written by Hildegard von Bingen. And I knew that's who had come to me in my dream. And she was telling me to get with it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I had been trying. I had a card made. I'd been a regular gigging musician, and I'd been trying to find my way because it seemed like that wasn't it. And I had a card made that had an Hermes heart on it, and it said, music heals the soul. And that is the direction things started moving before I left Seattle. But I interrupted it trying to save my family. We won't go into that right now. I'm sure it'll come up again later. It didn't work. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
We stepped through the gates of hell together. And, you know...
so then 25 years later...
Yeah, and then 2018...
We're back on the creative
track. 2019, I was here very sick. I'd been bedridden pretty much for 4 years by then. I hadn't been up much because I was so sick all the time. And Hildegard came to me again. And I spoke to her one night, and then I went to Goodwill the next day, and there was a Hildegard plaque in there from Bingen, Germany.
Goodness.
And I was like, whoa.
2019.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what month or around what time?
It was autumn.
Yeah.
Probably October.
That's
Actually, I'm thinking it was October.
That's when it was all happening for me.
You too.
Well,
See, this is what we found out. is,
The onset of my major manic episode, which got me the bipolar 1 diagnosis. I mean, I had several experiences with mystical things before, but this is what concretized, like, no, this is what your life is about. But anyway, that's just to make that connection, because I didn't realize that.
I didn't either. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So that year, I chose one word, and it was release. And every night, I would be doing this. I release everything and everybody that doesn't belong in my journey, whatever that is. I was trying to clear the decks that year. You know, I didn't even know what a boundary was still then, frankly.
I know, I was just learning too.
But I was just trying to let go of stuff and people that clearly I had gone into some horrible depths, you know, of illness. And I was trying to crawl back out. And so that's how it started. So that's my story with Hildegard, you know, my guide.
Gosh, yeah. Synchronicity lines the path.
Yeah.
Like whenever you begin a spiritual realization, awakening, or path, that's how it's going to go. And what's the funny thing about synchronicity is it doesn't always lead you to heaven. Like the feeling of it is heaven, but often it leads you into the underworld, because that's where you gain your knowledge and your wisdom. And we don't appreciate that enough in the modern world. Well,
not in this country anyway.
Right.
I don't think we can talk for the whole world.
Well, I think the tragedy is that, well, it's probably not tragic in the higher perspective, but the seeming tragedy is that the United States is kind of bringing everybody else into this superficial way of life, like introducing fast food to.
But you know, they're starting to pull away from us.
I hope so.
You know, look what's happened. McDonald's shut down in Russia. You know, I mean, you know me. I always see all these bipolar 1, manic.
It is
hallucinations. My diagnosis is lengthy, if you look at it that way. But also, I just want to address this right quick. When you look I've looked at my astrological chart in depth, which I never did before. I always just went to other people. And the first time I ever went to a guy, he was quiet for a full 2 or 3 minutes. It was a noticeable pause. And then I hear him say, well, you came here to learn a lot. And now that I've looked at it, I see what he meant. And it actually, you can look at my life from a psychological perspective, and you can go, okay, this is why these things have happened to her. Because there was stuff that started in my infancy, for real. It's been a rough road to hoe that way. Okay. If you look at it from the other perspective, astrological perspective, it's all in my chart.
Well, that's part of, I
Which
try
I
to tell
just
people
love.
there's no contradiction.
No, there's not.
I mean, the divine has to create through creation, so circumstances line up to realize the vision of the chart, which I like to tell people, like, it's still just constellations. Like, you are not, like, we look up at the constellation of Taurus and we don't see a bull. It's still just dots. Yeah. We have to fill in that picture. So the chart doesn't, like, predetermine your life.
No, but it shows
free will
you
still
patterns.
steps in. Yes, it is patterned, but that's the beauty of, like, falling into divine alignment is you never have to worry about the next step. You know that the patterns are going to unfurl. Even if it is a chaotic pattern, it's just a matter of figuring out what the pattern is. Yeah. And
well, that's what we do. That's what humans do. We see patterns. We see in patterns. Hell, that's what math is. That's what music is. That's what art is. You know, that's what science is.
Yeah.
You're picking patterns. You know, we're all exploring patterns. So, do you want to talk about you before that, and then we'll tell the story of how we got together? Because that's
trying to figure out where to start. Mine, so around 2019, I just, out of the blue, I recognized manic symptoms again after years of just shutting it all down. All the spirituality, like, you know, I felt like whatever leaked out was whatever it was, but I was in a relationship with someone who was very secular. I was just trying to live a normal 3D life.
Yeah.
Put it all to bed.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it when I'm dead. So it was actually like July of 2019 that I got that first glimmer, and it was sharp. I knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, like Mania's back. And then it took a couple months to ramp up. And one day I was attending a showing of Ferris Bueller's Day Off at the Ohio Theater. This gorgeous historic theater in downtown Columbus, Ohio. And I was walking through those halls and having a discussion with a friend of mine about psychedelics. And I was like, I don't really need to do psychedelics again. I just know that shit can move. I want to see things move. I want to see all the stuff on these beautiful walls. I want to watch them animate. And then everything started animating. Like, it was like, speak it and
it happened.
Yes.
Yes.
And in addition, that movie is just a terrible one for a person with mania to watch, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I've seen it, but why?
Well, it's wonderful, but not great for the state of mind.
Why?
Because
Tell them. They need to know.
I had never actually seen that movie. Ferris Bueller can do whatever he wants. It's his attitude. He can get through life. And I didn't even see it as like, oh, this is a young white man. It's not that entitlement. This belongs to everyone. Like, if you have the right attitude, and in the movie it's portrayed as very entitled. But if you know that this existence is yours and you are a spark of the divine, you can realize whatever you want in the world. And none of the systems that hold everybody back can stop you. The ways are going to be opened. And I
Okay, so I have a question. Is that what was going through your mind as you were watching the movie that day?
Oh yeah.
That's how mania works. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Speaking
people
directly
don't
to
understand.
you.
Yeah, people who are not manic don't understand that. Because hypomania, I'm the one who's read a lot about psychology because of my age. Hypomanic people just get a little bit of a high. That's the fun stuff. That's the fun stuff. Full-on mania, as you well know, goes way down the pipe.
Yeah.
And so
Everything
you're not
in your
seeing
environment is reflecting.
the same reality everybody is. What I say to a friend of mine that we'll have on sometime, Linda, a Libra/Scorpio woman we know, I'll say to Linda, I'll go, well, I can see you and I can hear you, but I'm in the next room. That's the way I've used to phrase that, is that I'm still aware of what everybody else is living with in their reality, but it is definitely not where I am at the time. My reality is totally different. I've seen walls dissolve. And I never did psychedelics because when I was 17, 18, everybody was doing that. That was in like 72, 73. When I went to college, they were doing dropping acid. And I
love that we're both awkward at the terms with the drugs.
I never got it on it because I knew I wasn't going to be going there. My friend Martin Sarasua, Martin, if you're out there, I'd love to hear from you someday. Martin Sarasua and I used to play in the leaves together at OU in Oklahoma.
Nice.
And he was dropping acid. He was in engineering school. And he asked me if I was interested, and I said, no. I said, you're doing this to get someplace I live.
Yeah.
And I said, when this happens to you, without you wanting it, without you ordering it up like burgers and fries, that's not recreational.
Yeah.
It's not recreational. So that's why I never did the things other people were doing. I tried a little bit of cocaine when my friends were all doing it in Seattle, and I said the same thing then. I didn't feel a thing. I was already there. I was in full-on mania. That's when I was walking around and seeing myself from above, because I'd gotten triggered. And I just said to someone who was a friend of mine then, I said, well, you're taking something to get where I live, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize it quite that well. Of course, I was 34 when all of this happened, something like that.
So much later.
So I had no idea. Like, I've written in old journals all the time, like, why am I so bipolar, blah, blah, blah. But I just viewed it as having a full range of emotion, unlike most people who are trying to shut out both ends of the spectrum and just live within this very narrow range of existence.
Yeah.
So it took that giant episode happening for me to be like, okay, I need to accept the terminology at least enough to understand what makes me so different.
Yeah.
But to this day, I feel like it's a gift and it's shamanic and it's coming out in explosive ways that are interrupting the patterns that people are trying to set around us. So it's seen as negative or mental disorder.
Right. Yeah. because you can't be like we are and work an 8-hour job.
No.
Somebody else's schedule 40 hours a week. I tried. I'm the generation where, when you went to see a psychiatrist, it was all about what was wrong with you and how you needed to change yourself to fit in with everybody else's reality. And so because of my age and where I came in on the whole mental health thing, it was quite different for someone my age than it is for younger people now. I think this is a better time, much better time.
It is.
And it just puts more stress on you. And so what happens is over the decades, it's progressive. You just get worse and quote worse and worse and worse. You become less and less functional in other people's reality. And when I was worried about all this in my 20s, it was the year I was seeing myself from above, I was concerned, to say the least. Screaming and crying every night and afraid to get out of my chair because I was afraid I'd slip my wrist if I headed toward the kitchen. Terrified. I spent a year being terrified, not talking to anybody about this. And when I finally decided, because I was trying to grab any ray of hope, what I had thought was that people were really living in an agreed to reality. Gold has value because we agree to the fiction that it has value, and therefore it has value. And so that's kind of how I looked at the whole mental illness thing at that point, was that as long as I was concerned that my reality wasn't matching up to everybody else's, there was some thread of sanity, what I was calling sanity, in there. So that's how I moved forward. But I did the same thing that you did. As soon as I got diagnosed, which was probably 2 years after that started, I spent 2 years in being terrified. I'd be driving down the street in Seattle, and I had lived there quite a while by the time this happened, and I would just suddenly be lost. I wouldn't know where I was.
Yeah.
And I'd have to pull over. I had no idea where I was, and I'd be screaming and crying, freaking out, and it'd take about 45 minutes before I could come back, and then I'd know where I was, and I'd just go home. It was
I didn't know that
intense.
that disorientation until it got pretty bad. Like, my boyfriend at the time had left, so it was just me in our house. And I was so far gone, like some part of me knew I needed help. And I packed up my cats, nothing else, just my cats and me, ready to go to my dad's. Like, I didn't even know why, I didn't know what the plan was. It was just Dad's house.
Okay.
And this was before I knew that I was going to end up moving there to Columbia, Missouri. I ended up realizing I wanted to be there. It's where I was born. But in my out of mind state, it was just get there. And I couldn't, because the street signs kept changing. One minute I was in Columbus still, the other
I was
on the way to Columbia, and I'm almost to Dad's house. No, I'm in some apartment complex.
We need to talk about this.
It was complete schizophrenic, like a movie scene changing.
The same thing was happening to me at the same time in that same point for me. I would be driving down the streets in Seattle, and I'd hear something on the radio, and I thought it was Patience Ladding, who was the first woman mayor in Oklahoma City in 73 or 72 when I was young. And I thought I was back then at that time.
Yep. It's time travel. Your time travel, like not this specific instance for me, but it is some kind of experience of multidimensionality, of being beyond time. And it's more than just the outside looking in thing. It's more than that. That's all we know for sure. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, we are.
Because this experience has to be integrated into
Society.
The conscious awareness of all people.
Yes, it does.
In order for evolution to happen on all levels, individual and collective.
And we believe that COVID, the gift in COVID, has been that many people now understand that about themselves.
Yes.
Before, people like us didn't have a lot of chance of discussing anything with anybody.
Yeah, and I've been sitting alone for 3 years. She's been sitting
3 years?
20 years.
But yeah, but
here in Bartlesville, just
yeah.
like nobody to talk to.
No one to talk to ever.
And the conversations are happening on the internet, so like we could both see that, but we haven't had our local nodes. The nodes have met.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know.
Well, maybe we should talk about how we met now.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
we're doing origin stuff today.
We just met August 16th, so it's been about a month and a half.
Yeah.
And I do Uber. I've met a lot of important people in my life driving for Uber and Lyft. And I get this call one day to, what is it?
Grand Lake. Mental health.
Yep. She was finishing up her, your therapist appointment.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law had given me a pendulum, a little chakra pendulum that I hung from my car, the like audio dial or something.
Yeah.
And she immediately saw it, and it was just on from there. She was like, "You're on my level. Let's get together." I actually got another call in the middle of our ride. It was a ride to go to Tulsa, which I'm always looking for those because I have to work in
Money.
Yeah.
That's right.
But we kept talking, and the ride ended up canceling, and I was like, "Oh, good!" Like, my priority switched immediately from money to whatever we got going on here. This is the priority, and we ended up just like talking for the better half of the day for sure. I don't know how long, but
it was a few hours.
We haven't even known exactly how this is gonna play out. Stella for sure has ideas galore. I'm more in the like restorative, restful space, peace-oriented. Like, and all my ideas are shelved. They're all written. They're all filmed or written. Yeah. But she's really the firecracker right now.
Well, I've been doing this a lot longer. I'm older, so I've got file cabinets full of scripts I've written. I've had this idea, some kind of woman thing, since I was young. So I have a lot of things that I've written over the years, that were all about this. And for me, I was watching, I think it was 303 High Priestess on YouTube that was saying between these two dates, it was like September, when did we meet? 16th?
August 16th.
August 16th. Okay, so it was August. Okay, so she was saying between August, there'd been just something that happened. Was it full moon or something? I don't remember now.
I don't remember.
Anyway, she was making a prediction, and she had said you're going to meet the person, your partner. You're going to meet your partner in the next 3 days. And when I saw this, I'm trying not to be negative, and I'm trying not to roll my eyes, but I'm going, I never leave my house, because that's what it ended up happening, is I became extremely isolated between the physical illness, the mental illness, the spiritual illness. I had just ended up pulling away from everybody that I knew, for years now. And so I never got out of the house. And when she was predicting, I'm going, how's that going to happen when you don't leave, Well, I had a psychiatric appointment with my counselor, and my husband needed the car, and we've decided we only need one car. So I said, I was trying to think what to do, and I made this big plan with our friend Penny, and then I was going to walk this distance, and then take a break. It was, and take a break in a restaurant of a friend of ours, and then walk another bit of the distance, and take another break at a grocery store, and then walk again. I figured it was about 3 miles, which is really no big deal, but it was very hot, and I am getting old, so I'm starting to acquiesce to some of this stuff because of the age, So that morning I got up and I saw what the temperature was going to be, and I came down and I said to my husband Danny, I said, I don't know, And he goes, take Uber. And I had set him up to take Uber, but I had never used Uber myself. And I go, oh yeah, I can do that. So that morning I come out of Bob's office, and I had just been sitting there crying endlessly and saying, I need help in knowing how to move into the world and be around other
during that session?
People, yes.
Yeah, I guess I did.
It was the last thing I said in the session.
Oh my gosh.
I was sitting there bawling and saying, Bob, I need help. I need help being in life with other people. I walk out, I download the Uber app, I text, and there it was. And what we both realized is that we had the same vision for what we wanted to do.
Sanctuary.
And so that day, I've had this name Southern Sister Sanctuary for like a decade now. Been wanting to do this, but it was never right.
Yeah, that's all her. But the idea, like
It's not all me, it's just the messages, and I just
the
save
name.
stuff because I'm like that.
Yeah,
The name had already
Just
come,
giving
and
you
we
credit
already
for
had
that.
it.
Yeah. And I just had a similar breakdown. I don't know if it was the night before, but it was within 2 to 3 days before this, like where I said out loud by myself, which I don't do this,
Very often.
Yeah. I need help. You have to send help. I can't do this by myself. I'm very bad with the camera. I'm very or just awkward. I can't get it right. I've been working with mediums for years and I just can't make anything work by myself. And then, yeah. Oh man,
Let's pull some cards, boo.
Oh, let's just do that.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking while you were talking, one thing I've really liked doing lately is while someone is talking, just flipping through the cards.
Yeah,
and it's amazing what kind of relevant messages will come through.
Yeah.
Unexpected blue moon. What were we just talking about?
Like it. Yeah.
I just love this image too.
Yes.
And the number 43, I always see that as love you.
And I just want to say this because I get so frustrated when the people that I watch don't say what decks they're using. This is by Stacey Demarco. This deck is that Allison's got. And she's with Rockpool Publishers in Australia. Well, it's because she's Australian, and so it's not as big as Blue Angel Publishing. It's a newer publishing company, but Rockpool they have an app you can get. And you can test their decks. So.
Nice.
And
you thought.
Okay. And so I've got. Which one is this one? I don't know if I'll be able to see who this is because
I think
this is another Rockpool deck. I know that.
No, that's the other one.
Oh, it is. Oh shoot.
We can put all this in the.
Hey, that one flew out.
We can put all this in the comments.
Yeah, we will.
Or
We'll
not
just put the comments.
But
She Who Hopes.
description.
We're not Renee. I would guess that's how that is. Love, hope, and relationship.
Oh, yes, it is Venus in Libra right now.
Yeah.
She Who Hopes. Let's see if we can see that.
Oh, thank you. I forgot
Testing
to do
my
that.
autofocus.
Yeah.
That's what I got that camera for.
Let's try this one.
Yeah.
Allison brought this one today for me to try because she wasn't feeling that connected, but then we felt like she connected.
That's another miracle I want to discuss is when I watch tarot readings, I'm always looking for the love vibe, when is my love life going to change? Because I am a Libra. I felt like I just can't stand in this world alone, and that it would be a romantic partner that would help me feel that stability. And all the readings are like, nope, it's career, it's what you're gonna do in the world. And I'm like, whatever, I don't see it. It's never happened. I have tried to collaborate with people before, and I'm the only yes person. I'm the only person that's like, yes, let's do it. So yeah, and then we meet, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, the timing just wasn't right yet.
Yeah, and I've had the same experience where, I think just meeting Allison and Penny has helped me so much because we have an agreed to reality. Mm-hmm. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
The three of us have an agreed to reality, and I think if you're like us, you want to try to find some people who have that, because you don't have to constantly backpedal, explain yourself to other people, because your peeps actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's something we've lacked for so long.
It changed my life immediately.
But it's just like the seed being planted underground. You have to have that isolation to grow in your own ways, to become ready to step out into the world too. Because I realized as well, I was not ready before. I wasn't ready to meet you even a year ago.
I wouldn't either. Even this January, I was still a mess.
Yeah.
I was really trying to claw my way out of that.
So divine timing is absolutely at play in all of our relationships.
Yes.
And that's something this has really driven home for me. And with the love stuff, the love and the money stuff, which, all of that has gone to the back burner. Now it's all about what we're doing in the world, what we're creating here. And whatever falls into place, I just know that it will, because that's how it's gone so far.
Because that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I just pulled these two. Let's set these up here. Okay. This one says embrace through each other. You find the missing pieces.
I love it.
How fitting is that? And this one says when it comes to matters of the heart, there is no right or wrong. Every choice you make expands your understanding of life and love. They just reiterate what you're saying.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Had a lot of good hugs the past few months. We've just, everyone's dealing with health issues, whether physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah.
And it's time to start viewing the hope. Like this is saying, it's time to start seeing the hope. Because it's like everyone's in this collective tower moment, just in free fall, and just looking at the impact that's going to be made when they hit the ground. But it's not even about that. There's no hitting the ground. Full spiritual life is about being in free fall constantly and just adjusting to that feeling.
Yeah.
The constant feeling of leaping and knowing that the nets will appear.
Yeah.
And
You know what my husband used to say about me
what?
when we lived in Seattle? This is the last time I was this plugged in, because I was at the same spot then.
25 years ago?
Yes, things were happening and and all that.
Yeah.
He said that what he liked to say about me was that I jumped off the cliff and then I'd go, "Can I fly?"
The fool in the tarot.
Well, here,
We'll
I'll
show us
pull
still
the
a
bunny
bit.
one up while you're talking. I'll look for it.
You're supposed to carry the spirit of the fool with you throughout your entire life. And as adults, we think we're supposed to put the child away. No, you carry that spirit with you the whole journey. If you lose it, then I think the journey's lost. Yeah, he's not that bunny's not stepping off.
It's
the
not the
cliff.
traditional,
but-
not the traditional image, but you get the idea.
Yeah, and the whole
dancing around
concept
and
of
playing
growing up, people want to banish
their child.
they don't want to feel like the jester or the fool.
Yeah.
But they end up looking like one because they're trying so hard not to. So we're just embracing it all.
Embrace your inner fool.
Yeah. Showing people that it's okay. Before I went to the mental hospital, I was already immune to humiliation.
I don't get embarrassed like my regular friends do either. I can do something.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
care.
not afraid to
I don't
fail.
care how it looks. If I'm having a good time, don't care.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
maybe that's it, is that we get humiliated early on, so we learn to deal with it. What fell out? Let's
I
find
don't
out.
know.
Here, you speak to this one.
More Libra message. Love.
She's our Libra.
Yeah, I feel like the world is against Libras right now, and I'm just like,
Do you
no,
really?
I'm not giving it up. Love will be discussed. We will address all of this.
I love that. There,
Like
scan her
even
up everything.
even Stella's like, love's just not my thing. Blah blah blah. And
Well,
I'm
not
like,
that kind of love. Love is my thing, but
that.
not personal human love. Never has been.
That's because we're all so wounded, though.
I'm the agape. I've always
Can we
been
make this work?
the agape love. There, I got it.
Yeah, me too. And I've always understood
Yeah.
even romantic love from the agape love standpoint. And that's why romantic love won't work. Because I'm coming from, we're coming from the real foundation of love. Like, if you don't have that, then all of your relationships are going to operate at some deficit. But it's just not talked about here. Because we don't talk about emotions.
Yeah.
We're getting there, though.
Yeah. I'm, the pendulum's swinging around here. When I was young, so in the 60s, when we were seeing people being mowed down on TV, I was 9, I think, when I first started seeing that stuff. Would that be right? Yeah, it would have been 60, 64, 65, somewhere in there. 63, we were seeing people just being mowed down in the streets.
Wow.
And that's when I started asking Mama, the one that I told about my visions. I would ask her about these things and say, why do people hate each other? I just couldn't grasp it.
Of course,
I
as a child.
didn't understand that, and I never did. that I never did.
Yeah,
I still don't.
fundamentally.
I
And
still
it's
don't
ironic,
understand it.
The irony of being told you have a mental illness
Yeah.
when you're coming from a place of love and the rest of the world is coming from a place of hate.
Mighty fine point,
That
Will.
is hard. It makes me insane. I call
Yeah.
this the gas lamp district. Like, just all of human society is the gas lamp district right now. That's the first place I went when I went to San Diego, was the gas lamp district.
Interesting.
Yeah, being gaslit for being a loving being, that's a radical, like, we can start right there. The whole conversation can start right there with that one point. And, like, I'm just, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. Let's talk about the summer of love and whatnot, more of that, because that original collective, or at least here in the States, that was a big deal. And I feel like people act like it's not a big deal anymore. But it was the dawn of the age of Aquarius. People were feeling what is trying to still become realized.
It's happening again now.
It's happening now with
Yeah.
a little more foresight.
Yeah.
Do you need to get some water?
No, I'm
Okay.
Yeah.
With a little more hindsight, I should say.
Mhm.
And it just we had to kind of get past the initial, whatever, the big enthusiasm at the very beginning. It looks a lot like when people first fall in love, like the first phase of love where everyone just goes crazy and
Yeah.
ruins it right away. You know, that's kind of what it was. It seems like to me. I wasn't here for it. I was born in '84. But I keep looking back at, like, the music and all the art that was created in the 60s and 70s. Like, they had it. They were onto it. They just let it go. Or here's how I really look at it is fame and money stepped in and it spoiled all our artists. Like,
Yeah.
and they went for that instead of the love that they were trying to bring up.
I guess this is where I have a different perspective.
Yeah,
Because I was raised by the people I was raised by.
I have a very big picture perspective.
Yeah, mine's like pretty deep and pretty
Yeah,
wide.
you're
I forget
deep in the pixel.
how my son said this to me. What did he say to me? Mom, you have, he didn't say broad perspective, but something to that effect, that I see everything in this very lateral way, you know. And so it doesn't make the way I think very accessible to a lot of people.
Okay.
But I was raised by people who were born in the 1800s. I knew two of my great grandmothers, as well as most people. Most people don't even know their grandparents that well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and my grandparents were really more like another set of parents. You know, it was a different kind of upbringing for sure. And these people came from Prussia, and they remembered Prussia. They were like 10 when they came over, and so I heard a lot of things that people in my generation were not hearing because our family was so new here. You know, and so I heard different things about history too. I was just telling Allison the other day that blew my mind in 6th grade because I was in a school district in Oklahoma City that at the time was second in the nation. It was a good school district. So we were pretty proud of our education we were getting. and we had 2 sets of encyclopedias at our house. One was the one that my mother had been raised with, and then there was the one that my parents bought for us. And my grandmother gave me a look and informed me that the countries were not always the way we were looking at them now. And I remember that like rocked my world. You know, I was like, what? Because you're taught history. It's when people were taught history at school, because I don't think they're being taught much now. You were told these things as if they were facts that had always been.
Yeah.
You know, and so when she said that to me, and then I looked at the world map in the older encyclopedias, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. You know, it just blows your mind. No?
Yeah, because you're beginning to, how old were you said?
12.
Yeah,
Sixth
because
grade.
you're just forming your constructs of the world,
But the
and then
world
someone's already coming in like, nope. That was...
Idiot kid.
I mean, this is the big difference between us is I was more tabula rasa for the whole, I say it's the first 14 years of my life. Like, I was doing school. I did well in school. I was like gifted and talented.
Right.
I have no idea how I guess because I wasn't social. I always just say I was bored in school, so I did it. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, this is exciting. I'm not doing school anymore. But I just didn't absorb anything really. It's like I'm resistant to cultural conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I came in with this pure vibration and I was going to keep it until like really love and romance and sexuality was the only thing that rocked that. But I am totally immune to all of the nationalism and like pride that comes with groups and, you know.
Yeah, I don't have that either. But I thought that was because I was raised by people who didn't. Because they came here because that was going on. Bismarck was trying to do away with the middle class in Germany in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And that's why my people left.
Okay.
And so I grew up listening to people talking about government in that way, with a very critical eye. And so
by the time I came
I tend to look at organizations that way too. My grandfather helped build 2 churches, and he's the one who told me, your interpretation of the Bible is your own. That's between you and your God, and you do not discuss that with anybody else. A man who built a church told me that.
And that's lovely. I wish that was.
Yeah, it's too bad it's not that way now.
But you can't
build a monetary. You cannot build a monetary construct with that attitude. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was also told that German Lutherans never put their money into the building. They put their money into helping the world. Mm-hmm. And I was told that was a very Lutheran value, mm-hmm. that's what we did. Mm-hmm. You know, so it was not okay to build a gorgeous facade.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess I still deeply feel that way about the spiritual aspect. Is I'm very against the monetization
mm-hmm.
of, you know, like giant buildings and
we've got a whole prosperity church thing going. I don't know. Yeah. Things have
that really is different too. Now all these people are being told if they believe God, then they were then too. That's more of a Calvinist tradition. That if you are saved, everything's perfect, everything's going to be taken care of. You're okay. We weren't taught that. We were not taught that. We were taught life is hard, very hard, and your faith will not save you from that. Your faith is here to help you move through that with wisdom.
Yes.
And that is the big difference I see between how I was raised and this thing that has taken over the United States now.
Well, what's
that they're calling Christianity, but it is not Christianity.
Just what I see in everything, and this is poisoned everything, is just ignorance is how people make money. So the more you know, mm-hmm. the more you're going to be like actually exiled. Like I've been mm-hmm. pushed out, ignored, mm-hmm. shut out of people's lives, fired for mm-hmm. just desiring to know more about what I'm doing at a job specifically. Mm-hmm. They want you in the dark. They want you mm-hmm. to sell based on your charisma, mm-hmm. based on the other person, the buyer not knowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like even this goes with religions as well. Mm-hmm. You don't need to know what's in that religion. You just need to join.
Yeah.
Be a cell in the body.
Yeah.
Become a source of revenue.
It's making me think of the Matrix.
I think
all
of
the
cancer.
pods.
I just think of
in cancer.
Cancer cells have
mm-hmm.
no function, specific function. They just grow. Growth is the only purpose.
Yeah. And that's illness.
And that is illness.
Yeah.
We're
dealing
with mass illness. This is not even mental illness. This is lack of mental.
It's a lack of thinking for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lack of heart too. It's just.
Well, it's not living in mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I
mindful versus.
We do care about vocabulary in here.
We're trying it.
And we're trying just like everybody else is. And maybe that's the best thing we can say is that I truly believe that if everybody is living in mindfulness, or as many people as are able, and they go about their day like that the world's a better place. Mm-hmm. There was a tribe called I'm going to say Senoia. I'm not sure that's how you really say that. It's Senoia, I believe, that I read about in my 20s when I was in college. And they based the lady who studied them, they're a Malaysian tribe, her impression was that they based everything on their dreams. And they get up and they would talk in the morning, and they had no mental illness and no murders, no, nothing, no theft in this area. And they would get up every day and discuss their dreams. If the children had nightmares, their parents would say, well, you can do this in your dream. You can call for help in your dream. You can become a tiger.
You're still the conscious agent.
You're the conscious agent. So they get taught that from the word go.
Wow.
And then what they do in society, their society that day, is based on what they dreamed or they felt like they woke up feeling like they're supposed to do. So everybody does everything. Some days you'll go cook. Some days you go build a roof on a hut. Some days you go carve something. And there's no illness, no mental illness, or there wasn't then.
Yeah.
I don't know if that tribe is
Where
still
is
that
this?
removed. Somewhere in Malaysia.
Okay.
And there are some tribes in the world that, and I found the term for that, now I can't remember what it is. There's a term for this, where they've refused to interact with what white European invaders have done.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have to look it up. I saved it because I love words. And there is a word for that now, for people who refuse to engage with this world.
I can't think of anything. I thought maybe something intuitively would pop up.
Yeah, no, there's an actual real term for it.
What it's making me think
I can't
of
remember.
is just the whole libertarian concept of laboratories of experimentation. Like, for any, like the European invader mentality, I mean, I wish we would drop the white, because I want this discussion to eventually move away from race, because it's clear that it's about culture.
Yes, it is.
And colonizer mindset. We could even call it that, because
Colonizers, that's a nice, a little
even
more neutral term.
Elon Musk is trying to colonize Mars. There are no creatures
Yeah,
there
we
that
haven't
we
even
know
fixed
of,
ourselves up on this planet, so let's
but
go
they
out and
still got
invade
that.
everybody
They
else.
still got it. Or, let's go recreate our problems somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. I think colonizer is a good word.
Yeah, and it's what a lot of people have started, discussions started a while back, but the mainstream media really likes the racial tension, so
In my mind,
they want
I've
to keep
been-
white
I've been
around.
using European invaders in my mind, but I like colonizers better because that's the
that
act.
covers all of them.
That is the act, and
And
not
it is
the
in
not the
all of
specific
them.
person or culture.
And
it's the
women,
act.
and because, well, okay, we're drifting too far.
Pull us back in. Elsie.
Yeah, where were we?
European invaders, colonizers, Elon Musk.
It was before that.
It was before Musk.
We need children to come in and tell us when we're rambling.
Yeah, like my buddy, Scorched Earth. Her daughters came
were
in the
just
middle of the
watching
night
that.
and told her to stop rambling.
Well, she was doing a live session on
shout out
YouTube.
Scorched Earth, I love you.
Yeah. And I don't remember.
Well, I don't either.
Because
Forget
we were
it.
talking about our differences, where like I have much more of a big picture perspective. Stella has been through all of it, all the very detailed instances and dynamics. I've spent most of this life floating through like a ghost, feeling unseen, like even though I am anything but, I am visible. I even had a friend of mine tell me the other day, like,
You can't not be visible. I've been told that too.
But
that,
my
you can't not be
behavior
visible.
at times gets more and more extreme, because I'm like, is anybody registering that I'm even here? But it's because they're not on my frequency that they're not responding.
Yeah, I've had the same experience over and over.
Like I've been straight up ignored by so many people, just not responded to, not reacted to. I get the blank stare, and that makes me go crazy.
I used to call that the black hole of nothingness.
Yeah.
I'd say something that was so unacceptable to someone's basic worldview that like there's no response at all. It just dropped into the black hole of nothingness. It's gone.
And I had a very vivid hallucination during my spiritual emergency of like other people just not even being real. It was like everything was a video game. And these other people had run out of scripts that their programmer had given them. And that's why they weren't responding to me. They had no more scripts. They weren't conscious. So And that's a tough thing to reconcile when you're trying to just live a life. Is like some people they're not gonna be in there. That's what unconsciousness is, and that's what we really want other people to start coming into. Like in the village, the 𝔼𝕠𝕚𝕤𝕠𝕕𝕖 village,
Mm-hmm.
like you are the conscious agent, even in your dreams. You
Yes.
think your dreams are just on autopilot? No,
Mm-hmm.
you can wake up within them,
Yeah.
just like you can wake up within this reality, this
Yeah.
collective dream
Yeah.
that we call reality.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that. Everything wants you to be asleep because it feeds the machine. Whatever that
Yeah,
is.
society wants you to be asleep because it feeds the machine.
And I see that as even like, it's not this big evil thing either.
No, it's just the way it works.
It's creating
it's the
the
yang.
story.
It's okay. I've been very into the Eastern stuff too for a long time. I had a big trauma when I was 12, and I was in Lutheran catechism, and we Lutherans used to, at least the kind of Lutheran I was, which was still very German in a lot of ways. They always educated their children on what other people believed too. We didn't just learn ours, you know. And so for me, that stretched out to also Hindu beliefs, Buddhism, you know, things like that. And I really feel like I felt like then that everybody was basically on the same path. It's just you choose the way that works best for you.
Different outfits.
Yeah,
you know,
it's different. Putting on a different cloak.
Yeah.
You know, whatever works for you, and that's I think one of the things that we want to encourage people to do. That's why we're not reading for people. We're reading so you can see how we do this. How we do this in our life.
Which is kind of it's a image representation of the conversation we're having. It just helps guide the conversation along.
And
I kind of unconsciously will grab a deck every once in a while and just start shuffling.
yeah, me too. I love to fill it with the cards. And neither one of us reads for the future or for outcome. We read well, maybe you do a little bit more. I have had that stuff step in. I've had that stuff step in for sure.
If it wants to come through.
Yeah, but what I'm doing every day that I do this, and I don't read every day. I go by how I'm feeling. I may pull one card, I may pull three, I may do a 9-card spread, which is something I've developed for myself that I like, and then I slap some other stuff down with
This is
it.
5 of Cups.
Yes, it
The
is.
tulips. I've been getting 5 of Cups
Constantly?
a lot, constantly.
What are you seeing about that?
I think just a lot of people are going to be dealing with grief, with loss. It goes with the collective tower moment. Like this can go with the loss of sense of self when there's any major change or radical perspective change in the society around you. But there's a lot of sense of emotional devastation. And I call it losing what made you feel like Christmas card.
Interesting.
And there are 3 cups spilled before the original figure in this card.
Yeah.
And you just said cloaked. That's hilarious because the 5 of Cups in Rider-Waite Tarot is a man cloaked in black, and he's just like this, shut off from the world. And these 3 cups are spilled in front of him, but 2 of them out front are red and green. I'm sure those symbolize like the humors because they used to see things psychologically as the humors.
Yeah.
But I just see Christmas, like he's lost that whatever joyful, like gratuitous joy feeling is.
And see, I think the 5 cards are always like that.
5s are the challenging cards.
Yeah, they're the challenge
Gabora
cards. And they always, the
and
pictures in the traditional decks are always somebody's not seeing that help is right there. 5 of Pentacles. They're in front of a church window. It's a poor woman and her daughter, and they're out in the cold, and they don't see that all they have to do is just walk inside.
Yep.
And they're going to be fine.
Uh-huh.
The 5s are always.
It's the
always
first
like that.
major challenge you get along the path because the ace, the 2, the 3, the 4, all those first cards are kind of like, we're getting some progress. We're manifesting here, and then the 5 is like, wait a second, challenge.
So this is what you want to remember. When you have a 5, Spirit has a plan. So that
There you go.
goes with the bunny.
Perfect.
Right there.
Call on Koala
Yeah.
to help you.
Yeah.
And that's funny that this was on film as well, because when I did my little collective reading for Bartlesville for the Facebook page, that's what came up first. Yeah, so I've already discussed that on film. So yeah, Five of Cups, every card in the tarot, every person is going to see that chapter within their lifetime. So
Over and
people
over.
get scared of the Death card, the Devil card, any card like the Five of Cups.
The Tower card, the Three of
Because
Swords.
your soul needs to know all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the minor arcana are more temporary instances in our life. A major arcana card would be a major theme in your life.
Yeah.
So, the Tower would kind of be the major arcana to the minor arcana here for the Five of Cups.
Yeah.
But after that, the Star comes out. The Star of Hope. Yeah, I want to see what occurs. I want to see what comes out
But
after
it comes
that.
out of this one. That's what I was wondering too. Okay, here we are. Abundance.
Queen of Wands. That's actually on the same
Same mojo.
vein as well.
Yeah.
Hunter Moon. Has that already? Is that
Isn't that
coming up?
November?
I think
Or is it-
might be. It's a very fall card, very autumn.
I could tell. I've got it in my book. I wrote all the moons down, but I don't remember. I guess we need to start looking before we do this, so we know where we are.
Well,
you know?
yeah,
Be
and my
fun. It'd
awareness
just be
has
fun.
been very in the moment, even though I've kind of lost track. I think it's a Sagittarius moon right now. We've got the Venus in Libra. Jupiter just went retrograde in.
Whee!
And you've got me thinking Jupiter in Cancer, but that's not what it is right now. I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
I am trying to get more into the natural calendar versus the grid calendar. Well, I'm trying to get them synced up.
Yeah.
But that's really how I think of the third and the fourth dimension. Like you're squarely in the third dimension if you're living in linear time. You're in the fourth dimension if you're starting to incorporate the moon's cycles and the planets and living intuitively, really. And intuition, like kicking out intuition, goes with ignorance being the climate of the day. Like that's why geniuses are what they are, is because they can think in the linear way, but they can also use their intuition. And you know, we just restrict genius here.
Well, yeah. I guess maybe we should close this down soon, but that leads me to the subject that's near and dear to my heart, which is the people living in the woods who are like me.
Yeah. Oh, we got to talking about the sanctuary. We
Yeah.
never ended.
Yeah.
That's where we need to conclude. When I went through my spiritual emergency, I had this vision of there needs to be a safe place for people just going through a spiritual awakening or going through something like this to just go and be, to just
and
exist.
Just do that. Just be in that and focus on that.
In a place
Yes.
where people understand the experience.
Yes.
Instead of, you know, I mean, the mental hospital was no fun place to be.
And it's not helpful either,
I was
frankly.
manic, so I made the best of it.
They load you up with drugs, dump you into 12-step programs, which if you've never done drugs or alcohol,
the only thing they care
Is it
about is that you don't
worthless?
kill yourself.
yeah, that's all they're doing.
And they
is just
don't really
stopping you
care
from
about
killing
that.
yourself.
That's just their job.
It's not on
I'm
their
not
premises.
saying that for all individuals
No, we're not.
involved. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the institutionalized goal is
Yeah.
just do something with these people, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of this is a real,
Instead
this
of
is part of
moving-
the human condition.
Yeah, instead of it being the human condition, which it is. And I think that's what people are finding out now that we've had COVID and so many people have had this kind of upset in their lives who might not otherwise have had that kind of upset in their lives, that kind of isolation.
Yeah, yeah.
So I believe that we have, you know, an opportunity to change things now because of that. My diagnosis is quite serious, if you want to look at it that way. Most of the people like myself are living on the streets. And the only reason I'm not is because that grandmother and that grandfather helped me when nobody else would and paid for a lot of therapy. And the therapy alone wouldn't have done it, but they gave me some other gifts too that helped me stay off the streets. And I still had some experiences that somebody from my background wouldn't have had, and I'm sure eventually those will come up too.
Yeah.
But they don't need to come out today. But these people who are living in the woods are like me.
Mm-hmm.
And what my husband and I saw was to have the same thing. A few years ago when he was helping me move through the worst of this, and I was having flashbacks and finding out things that I had not known the rest of my life, we thought that we would like to build something where people could go to become well, to learn to eat right for their body, to learn whatever kind of meditation would help them calm, because there are all kinds of forms of meditations, and I've explored a lot of them.
It's a different formula for everyone.
Yes, it's different for everybody. And when I was growing up, I spent a lot of times in churches, because churches back then were open. Nobody vandalized them back then, so they could be open. And I made a pledge out loud to myself back then that when I made money, I would build sanctuaries. And at the time, of course, I was picturing church sanctuaries. But now what I'm picturing is that there are sanctuaries in all these abandoned churches where people can go to learn to grow their own food. And I'll put a shout out here too to the guy who has created torpedo pots, because that's the way I'm picturing this. There's a black gentleman somewhere in the South, I don't remember his name, but he's created something called a torpedo pot, and the stuff just grows in there. He's figured out this whole system so that you can be an idiot like I am with plants.
That's where I am.
And still have plants. And Dan and I went to order a few of his pots, but what I picture is in these sanctuaries, there would be these pots so people were growing their own food. You can always get a local chef or cooks to come in and help people learn how to cook food, because when my husband fell 3 stories and we lost all our money 20 years ago, my son started hanging out with kids that he wouldn't have known otherwise. And I found out that if you have generations-long poverty in this country, you don't know how to cook a vegetable. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to do it.
I grew up on a farm and nobody taught me anything.
And so
because it was all about college. I was a good student, so it was like
they were pushing you to college.
It's academia for you.
But this way people can come in there, and the only pledge they would have to make to live in an old mall or an old church or whatever is empty in a town, all they have to pledge is that they want to live in some kind of wellness. Mm-hmm. And you could get local people to come help them learn how to meditate, to do yoga, how to exercise, how to ground themselves.
Utterly non-denominational.
None of that. None of that.
Come as you are.
Just come as you are, and if you want to be healthy, you can be here.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I've got a model in the prison in Rhode Island that we're going to be looking at, and hopefully we'll be talking to those women about how they set this up. And we're not talking about prisons, but it's the same. It would be the same model that you're helping people learn to live in wellness and mindfulness,
constructive aid.
Yes.
Sometimes people just need to feel spiritual aid, like somebody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And we're just being that for each other at this point in time.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like sometimes I look around at the world and I see, wow, this is the same world that I inhabited August 15th, but it is not.
Feels different now. I gotta say,
it's very different. Just knowing that another person is there and that this has been in the works, in the divine imagination.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Again, the divine timing thing is real. It takes, even when you read on the internet all these posts that are like, you'll see something in a week, something will happen. It's such a short time frame. And I'm like, you need to start talking in years. People need to know that gestation periods for the imagination,
everything
for things are much longer
than in emergent society. Everything's right now. You know, you pop this pill, it's going to fix this thing right now. If it doesn't kill you with a heart attack, or give you migraine headaches, or give you diarrhea, or the long list of things that they will list now, you know, which is hilarious. If you've come from what I came from, where you were taking medications when nobody else was in your 20s. Now.
Miracles don't work like that.
No, they don't. No. Deep change does not work like that. It does not work like that. It's a daily way you live your life.
Yep. It has to be transformation into the constant now, like this kind of ever-present now.
Yeah.
But as far as immediate results on anything, no, because it's about the journey.
Yeah.
What do we got here?
Cooper's hawk just flew off to the north.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I hear that bird every morning.
What do they sound like? Wow.
It's a gorgeous cry.
I can't wait to get into my bird watching years.
Yeah.
It hasn't quite started for me, but
My
I'm gonna
grandmother
get there.
watched birds, so I grew up with it as a kid. And we'd go out to the farm and she'd go, you hear that? That's a meadowlark. Memorize that sound. That's how I was raised.
Yeah. That's awesome. We need more of that. More people like that.
Well, you know, when I've looked at the shamanic stuff, I read Don Juan back in the 70s, and I've read some Welch, I can't remember his name now. Valdo, I think is his name
Ralph
now.
Waldo Emerson?
No, Valdo. This is a guy that's teaching shamanism now.
Oh.
I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but I look at his emails and stuff. And he talks about how we need this again, where in these societies where shamanism is still, people are still using that as a model. When someone like us starts to have these things happen, this person will take them under their wing and teach them what they've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And then their part in society is to help other people. That's what people like us do, because we don't have those little constructs. You know, we can walk up to a dog, look in its eyes and go, oh, there's something wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're those kinds of folks. And so she actually, I realized that when I was reading some of his stuff this last week, that my mama really played that role for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she showed me the weeds in the fields that you could eat and told me to memorize these things.
This is your mother.
My mama, my grandmother.
Grandmother. Okay.
My grandmother.
I'm still learning the.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know. When I went to therapy in my 20s, this was always so confusing because I had grandmother, grandfather, mother, dad, mama, papa, Mama Mary, and Grandma Pinky.
And I don't know how, just a superficial thing here to introduce, to your story. Your grandmother was more of your mentor, and your mother
Yes.
was more of your
Jealous sister when we were little. When I was little and she was young.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about
Yes.
sexual abuse and trauma.
And women's roles in that.
Yeah.
Because it isn't just men.
It isn't just
I'm
men.
here to tell you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is not to blame
These things
anybody.
to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the mixed qualities there, because there are so many things that you love about your mother and that you appreciate. It's like separating your personal
And my
tie
father.
from the person, and
Yes.
being able to see them objectively, and where do you feel like you are with forgiveness of? Or is that
I'm
you
done.
feel like that's completed? Okay.
Yeah, the part that isn't completed is that I still have issues with women.
Female relationships.
Female
Yeah.
relationships,
Well,
which I
have
didn't know
that
I
too.
had for the longest
Yeah.
time, because in my tight ones I still don't. You know, my best, tightest friends, I still don't have issues with those women. You know, but every time I've been triggered and I've been off, I've chosen a different kind of person.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the women I have issues with. You know, feeling judged.
Mm-hmm.
Because when what happened to me, my own mother judged me instead of her husband. You know, so we'll talk about all this as we go along, because I don't want to blame anybody. This is what I've explained to people I'm the closest to, who couldn't understand how I could forgive what happened to me. Is that when I do know everybody's story, because I grew up, I was a writer from the word go, so I was always observing everybody very carefully. And I knew what their psychology was before I knew what psychology was. You know, I already saw the world that
Venus
way.
and Scorpio
Yeah, the good old Venus and Scorpio that we share. And what I've realized is that if you really know anybody's story, if you really know their story, there is no blame, there's no shame, there's only grace. Because if you really know their story, your heart is open to them.
Amen. Yeah.
I guess that's where we end today, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Southern Sisters Sanctuary.
Yes.
Peace and joy reside within.
Comfort and joy.
Comfort and joy, excuse me.
Peace is the product, I think, of that equation.
Yeah. Find your peeps, it'll change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bye.
Cut.